I thought this would be a good idea for a video on the channel during the international break. I'm going to do a little review of how I felt Bristol City's season has gone so far. Alright, I refuse to be negative, at least to start the video. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I think are genuinely positive around the football club at the moment, right? I felt as Bristol City, barring maybe the signing of a forward player, someone that could play out wide or as a centre forward, we had a pretty good summer. Obviously, Liam Manning left us for Norwich pretty much straight after we got top six for the first time in, well, nearly 2 decades. And in came Gerhard Struber. And I've got to say, most fans, myself obviously included, really like him. I think he brings a style of football that brings entertainment to fans. I also think it's better suited to the players than the style of football that Liam Manning played. Most of our players seem to be playing with more freedom than before, able to express themselves. I really like how much energy and effort players put into the games. You know, high pressing. It's really good. And it's gotten the best out of quite a lot of players, namely, well, Zach Viner has looked like an absolute world beater this season. Mehmeti had probably his best start to a season in a Bristol City shirt. Twine petered off a little bit in recent games, but I thought he had a pretty decent start to the season. Ross McCrory, the list goes on in terms of players that have excelled under Gerhard Struber. And just in general, I think he's a really likeable manager, right? He speaks really well in press conferences, carries quite a lot of charisma with him. And what I've enjoyed, you know, results haven't gone our way this season in some games. He's been very honest in press conferences. He's not hidden. He's not used cliches to cover up what's really happening. He knows exactly where the issues are at Bristol City, and he says them in his press conferences. Yeah, I, for one, think we've done really well for Gerhard Struber, or to get him, I should say. And I know Liam Manning got us our first top 6 finish in nearly 2 decades, and we're currently sitting 10th in the table. We'll get onto the table. But do you prefer Gerhard Struber to Liam Manning? I almost do, to be honest with you. I think we've done really well to get him in. In addition to Gerhard Struber, I think the players that we've brought in this summer, we may not have brought in enough, but I think the players that we have brought in are of very decent quality. You know, Radek Vitek in goal has been a breath of fresh air, right? He's been absolutely fantastic. Some of the saves that he's made this season have been amazing. I think everyone can get behind the fact that Radek Vitek is an upgrade on Max O'Leary and possibly one of the best goalkeepers we've had in a Bristol City shirt. I think that's fair to say. Neto Borges brought in to be sort of a squad player playing on the left side of defence. We've needed him in the last couple of games, and I felt he's played really well, to be honest. Looked good at left wing back. Someone who has a bit of confidence in themselves on the ball. I like him. I think he's definitely an upgrade on Hayden Roberts and performed the role really well. In fact, in the game against QPR, he was probably one of our best players, to be completely honest. Adam Randall, rumoured to be injured at the moment, unfortunately. We'll talk about some injuries in a second. He's been really good as well, right? Arguably outshining Jason Knight in those 2 midfield positions so far. He's been absolutely brilliant. You know, he's a player that comes with a lot of English football experience. He just looks like a good, calm, mature lad, right? I think that's how we describe Adam Randall, and he's played really well in the midfield. Joe Lumley, I didn't expect the world of Joe Lumley, I'll be honest. You know, someone brought in that would accept playing second fiddle, the second fiddle goalkeeper in a championship team. I don't think you can ever expect them to be of like top quality. So I think we've kind of got what it says on the tin with Joe Lumley, really. And Emil Rees, who is a bit of a breath of fresh air in terms of the strength that he brings up front. He's a striker that can run in behind, hold the ball up. I've been really impressed with Emil Rees so far, and I think he really suits the style of football that we want to play. Just a little bit frustrated in recent weeks with the quality of him taking his chances, right? His finishing has left a little bit to be desired, but wow, 4 of those 5 players have probably performed better than expected, and Joe Lumley probably, as expected, really only made obviously a couple of appearances in the club. But in terms of players that we brought in, the actual players that we brought in and how they performed, I think we can take away that we're all pretty happy with them. It's a bit of a cliche to say this, but football at the end of the day is a results business. It's a results game. So, you know, we haven't had enough games yet where I can say that they don't all fit into a video. I think it's fair we can talk through pretty much each of the games we've had so far. I mean, the Via the Lib ones there just for neatness of how the fixtures lie together, really. That was a good friendly to watch. A good warm-up, I would say, for an absolute... I think it was the best opening day I can remember this football club having. 4-1 away at Sheffield United, the team that beat us 6-0 on aggregate in the Championship playoffs. What a great result to start the season. And a day that I'm sure if people travel to that game, a day they will genuinely never forget. And it was the perfect start to this season. You couldn't have asked for any more. Played MK Dons in the Carabao Cup a few days later. A couple of fringe players got some minutes. You saw Josh Stokes take to the pitch for the first time. Yu Hirakawa scored a goal. We were decent in that game. I sort of played to the occasion, I would say. It wasn't a game that we were dying to win. Well, you didn't need to put our bodies on the line or whatever to win. It was a comfortable win. We then faced Nathan Jones's Charlton at home, a resolute team that defended really, really well. And it was a first sort of, I would say, chink in our armour in the sense that we really struggled to break down the team that played the low block. Charlton came to get a result out of us, and towards the end of the game, they could actually probably had a better share of chances and could have won it. So we got the draw there. Derby dominated the game right up until the 87th minute, I think it was, when they scored their equaliser. It came from Colton Morris, didn't it? Our defence sort of just sat back, and it was such a soft goal at the end of the game, wasn't it? Reminiscent of previous seasons of Bristol City, conceding soft goals in last minutes. Frustrating one. But I thought in both games, maybe not the Charlton one, but the Derby game as a whole, I thought we played really well. We've certainly, one thing I can definitely say is we've turned around somewhat our away form. We do look decent away from home. Fulham, I went to this game. Fulham in the Cup, nothing really to speak about it, really. I thought we played to the occasion. We weren't desperate to win the game, and I think that showed on the pitch, really. But we can easily move on from that. We then beat Hull City 4-2 at Ashton Gate. I think there were all 40-something shots in the game. It was a crazy attacking game. Hull, they came to attack us, and I think that was to our benefit. And yeah, we smashed them 4-2. That was a good result. Away against Sheffield Wednesday was a great result again. Players played really well, although Sheffield Wednesday didn't really put up too much of a challenge. And then the results take a little bit of a dip. So we haven't won a game since that Sheffield Wednesday game on the 13th of September. That's basically a month. Well, I'm making this video exactly a month later. 3-1 loss to Oxford. I think, looking back on that game, we almost underestimated the way that Oxford would play. It was a Gary Rowett team, wasn't he? He always seems to do well against Bristol City, does Gary Rowett. It's hard to say that. Gary Rowett. There you go. Yeah. I think we expected them to sit back and defend, but they didn't. They were really decent. They came to attack us, and, well, all three of their goals came from set pieces, which was frustrating. At the times, I think, when Rob Atkinson, he went off injured early on in that game. And also, I feel like we had chances to win the game. In the first half, Emil Rees got in behind 2 or 3 times. He could have had a hat-trick in that first half, and we could have been 3-0 up going into, half-time, and it would have been a different game if that had happened. So, yeah, didn't play to the occasion. Well, I'd say probably underestimated Oxford in that game, didn't defend our set pieces well enough, and didn't take our chances. That led to us losing. Preston 0-0. I'll take the result, but I think we were better value than that. We really deserved to win the game, and Preston fans were saying much the same. Anis Mehmeti had a fantastic chance at the end of the game to win it for us. He missed, but it was genuinely one of the best saves I've ever seen from Iverson, the Preston goalkeeper. I'm actually quite surprised I can remember these games so clearly, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, you'll take 0-0 away at Preston, but in hindsight, if we took our chances, we could have won the game. Same as the Oxford one, right? We look at, well, that's 2 games we could have won there if we took our chances. Ipswich, I wasn't all that impressed with Ipswich, I've got to say. And their penalty, some say it's dubious, but the fact that they could only score past us with a penalty, I think suggests how good we were. We really challenged them toe for toe. But, toe for toe, is that the right term? But anyway, they benched a good 5 or 6 players ready for the East Anglia derby the weekend after. So we played a weakened Ipswich team, I would say, but really held our own in that game and I thought looked fairly decent. And then the excruciating 2-1 loss to QPR. A game again, we didn't show up too much for that one, maybe showing some tiredness. But yeah, didn't take our chances. If I think we had 1 or 2 we could have taken and been clear at half time. But yeah, QPR, they won. Bloody QPR. They always seem to, last few seasons they've had our number at Ashton Gate. So yeah, all in all, a mixed bag to start the season, I would say. And there's probably 3 things that have held us back. Injuries, for one. We'll get onto injuries in a second. Lack of options off the bench. In that Ipswich game, we were really hanging on towards the end, I would say. That the quality of players that Ipswich brought off their bench, Sammy Smodix, Philogene and Hurst, for example, and we're bringing on the likes of Sinclair Armstrong, who else we bring on? Hayden Roberts, players like that. They don't really lace the boots of the Ipswich substitutes. And I think that shows we've got a great team. I said it when I went on the radio for previewing the Norwich game. We've got a great team for about 60 minutes. But as soon as the bench is needed, none of our bench can really replace anyone in the first team. And I think that both affects us on the pitch and just in general, like squad competition. You know, all three of Twine, Mehmeti and Reece, they know they're going to play every game. They don't necessarily, and it's, you know, I think it will always play on their minds. They don't need to play out of their skin every game to stay in the starting 11. And missed chances as well. Excruciating missed chances, particularly against Oxford. I think Emil Reece could have had a hat-trick in that game, and we would have been 3-0 up relatively early on in the game, and then we didn't defend our set pieces well enough. That would be another comment as well. Defending set pieces, other than the Oxford game, I don't think we've been too bad at, and that's probably partly down to the fact we've had Rob Atkinson on the pitch. But attacking them, I don't think we've been great all season. That's something I can tell they were trying to work on in the QPR game. Definitely something I think could have been improved. So, yeah, there you go. A quick little counter through the games we've had so far. And I think people might agree with me with what's been holding us back. We'll look at the league table then. So we're sitting 10th. And I've got to say, I have a feeling that this is about where we may end up finishing this season. You know, we've got a great starting 11, right? The starting 11 of Bristol City, genuinely, I think could contend for a playoff spot, right? We've got some fantastic championship players, and I think we could. But injuries are going to rack up. It's a 46-game season. Of course we're going to get injuries. And I think at this current stage of the season, we've gotten really quite unlucky with the share of injuries that we've got. But you do need the full depth of your squad to survive a 46-game season. I just don't think the depth is there. And honestly, I think this is about where we'll finish. I don't know how you guys feel. Let me know in the comments where you think we'll finish. But yeah, starting 11-wise, we got a top 6 team. But the rest of the squad, I don't think they're fit for it, to be honest. Yeah, Coventry, Middlesbrough seem to be running away with it, don't they? Coventry have got such a good, deep squad. Middlesbrough doing really well under Rob Edwards. Shame, obviously, to see Tommy Conway there as well. Leicester there or thereabouts. Preston, Stoke. It's an interesting championship. You know, teams amongst the very, very top that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And obviously, Ipswich sort of working themselves out after a fair few new signings. I think they'll probably come good as well. And obviously towards the bottom end of the table, Liam Manning's new club, Norwich, really struggling. Spent loads of money in the summer. Can't really pull together any kind of result. We play them at the weekend, so we know exactly what's going to happen in that game. Also, we've got Sheffield United ranked bottom as well, with obviously Chris Wilder now taking over. Only 3 points for them, 1 win in 8 losses. So we go back to those fixtures, right, and we say the Sheffield United game was the best opening day in our history, which I think is probably fair enough. But actually, Sheffield United are the worst team in the Championship if you look at the points. So was that win really as impressive as we thought at the time, given how bad Sheffield United have proved to be? I don't want to take anything away from it, but that's just something that's been playing on my mind as well. Injuries. We've got so many injuries amongst the Bristol City squad at the moment. I'm recording this, I think it's the 13th today, or 14th, Tuesday the 14th of October. There's a rumour going around on social media. There's no need to hide it. It's fairly well known that Adam Randall has potentially gotten himself injured in training. So we could now be without Adam Randall as well, which means we don't have any first choice midfielders in the squad at all. Jason Knight, Max Bird, Adam Randall, Josh Stokes, Joe Williams, they're all injured. I don't necessarily think Josh Stokes is one of those 2 in midfield players, but all 4 of the players that could potentially play that position are all injured. Jason Knight doing his groin. Is that down to overuse? You know, there were games where he could have either been rested or subbed off early, I think, and he's just played 90 minutes every game until he got injured. Is that in some way linked to his injury? He also played for Ireland during the first international break of the season as well, so I think he almost played 90 minutes in both games for them. So it's always going to catch up with you, that kind of thing. It may be the one criticism you could level Struber's way so far, I would say, in terms of how much he's used Jason Knight, and whether that's attributed to his injury. Max Bird, he had a calf injury going into the start of the season, and it does seem that that's actually reoccurred. Could that have been preventable? You know, a reoccurrence of the same injury. Were people monitored? I don't know. I'm not going to start throwing conspiracies around, but you got to ask. I don't know what has happened with Randall. It's just a rumour. And obviously, Joe Williams has been out as well. But yeah, we are left with no centre midfielders, which is interesting. Obviously, Zach Viner's done a spectacular job filling in for Jason Knight, I thought, there in the last couple of games. Looked like he's played there all his career, and I'm very confident in him as a replacement if we need him. Unfortunately, that also means Zach Viner can't play right centre-back anymore. And I think he's probably the best player in the team, one of the best players in the team when he plays that position. So we're really missing something when George Tanner plays there. So I just hope some of these players come back soon. Outside of the midfielder injuries, well, there's obviously a few mixed in here. Campering, I think it's an ankle injury that happened to him during pre-season. He's due back. It says October. I'm not sure. Luke McNally's obviously done his ACL. He's back maybe next year. Max Birder's out. Max O'Leary as well. I mean, he's not necessarily a first teamer, but all of these players out injured. You make an argument that, well, maybe not Josh Stokes, but pretty much all of them would be banging on Struber's door for a place in the starting 11. So we are hit really with injuries. And in some ways, you've got to ask, you're relying on your bench if you've got those injuries, and our bench definitely at the moment is not strong enough. You're also sort of relying on youth players as well. And I would say that we haven't really got anyone breaking through. Certainly not in like defensive or midfield positions. Peckover looks like he's Struber's pick of the bunch. Haven't really seen Elijah Morrison, for example. Obviously, Adam Murphy went off on loan to Swindon, as did Jamie Knight-LaBelle. So none of those players I don't think can even be recalled. So we're relying on youth players, basically, maybe, to fill in the midfield spots. There aren't really any of them at the moment. So we definitely have been a little bit unlucky. I think having, all 5 of players that could play in these centre midfield positions injured is ridiculously unlucky. But I wonder if the medical department is fully covering everything. I'm not going to throw shade. I don't know what goes on behind the club. But to have that level of players injured, could it have been prevented? Or are we just desperately unlucky? And finally, just to round off the video, and this is a real point of concern for me, to be honest with you, we've got 3 players who I would say are amongst the best players in our squad, who have been playing regularly for us, who are out of contract in the summer, and I'm just not sure they're going to sign. Zach Viner was subject to a bid up to 5 million from Wrexham that we rejected. He's out of contract in the summer. Will we be able to re-sign him? Anis Mehmeti, he's out of contract this summer. I mean, these 2 have been 2 of our best players. I don't know if there's any negotiation going on at the moment, but it doesn't sound like there is. They certainly haven't signed a new contract yet. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at potentially 2 of our best players just leaving for free in the summer. And then Mark Sykes as well. He's not necessarily been our best player this season, but I still think he's a fantastic, starting quality player for Bristol City. All 3 of these guys are out of contract in the summer. And I'm not convinced we re-sign any of them. With our wage structure as it is, we don't pay players all that much here at Bristol City. And, if a Wrexham comes in for Zach Viner, they probably would have done some personal terms negotiations with him, or something would have happened there where he would have an idea of how much he could be paid there. Same for Anis Mehmeti. I'm sure he knows what he's worth on the salary market, as does Mark Sykes. And I am not convinced, with the current financial standings of Bristol City and our wage structure, if we will be able to afford our wages. So we're sitting here, 10th in the table, with a prospect of all 3 of these players either going for free in the summer, or if they don't re-sign, they could go for a discounted price in January. This is something that really worries me. There is the fan forum tomorrow. I was really hoping to go, but just with circumstances in my life at the moment, I can't make it. But this was the number 1 question that I wanted to ask people at the football club, because these 3 being out of contract, particularly Viner and Mehmeti, really worries me. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I tried to be as positive as I could there, but it's hard to be given, the situation we're in with injuries at the moment and the way that results have gone recently. It's almost as though the chickens we worried about coming into roost after the transfer window closed literally have done. But I tried to be as positive as I can. Starting it talking about the signings we made and the manager. Hopefully, you get some use out of this video. It felt a bit cathartic for me, or therapeutic. I don't know which of those words to use. Just getting it off my chest how I feel. Let me know in the comments what you think so far of our season. And I'll see you again, or leave a like rating on the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the season so far. I'll be back with a preview of the Norwich game sometime on Saturday. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the Robin's Nest channel. It should be just here on your screen. Oh, and by the way, I started this channel this season, so that's one positive, right? The support I've had on this channel has been amazing. Twitter and this channel it's been fantastic. Getting to say hello to some Bristol City fans at the games I've been to. Everyone's been so lovely and nice. It's been great. I've met a really good set of friends now as a result of this channel, and I'm just very grateful for it. So that's a positive that we can end on. See you in the next video.